Hello, and welcome to my part 3 of my learning disability screencast. Reading in a sample lesson plan. Some basic facts about struggling readers. One is that functioning illiterate adults struggle when finding a well-paying job, and they may be more likely to be laid off than those adults who are not illiterate. About 1 in 5 students are likely to struggle with reading, and 80% of those students who have been identified for special education services are because they have a reading deficit. When looking at children in the classroom, there are a few common characteristics that will show signs that they may struggle with reading in the future. Those are that their fine motor skills are below the average, they have a limited vocabulary, and they do not try to better that. And finally, they do not know the names of everyday common objects. They will be able to describe those objects, but they don't know the names. A balanced literacy program uses whole languages and phonics. There are 5 different components that bring together this program, and they are reading aloud, guided reading, shared reading, independent reading, and word study. There are many elements that need to be included in the program, and here are just a few of them. Reading to the children, oral language development, and listening experiences. So this could be having the children share parts of a story while others are listening. Vocabulary development, and modeling of written skills and techniques. Phonemic awareness is the idea of spoken words and syllables are made up of a sequence of sounds that you are able to tease out in order to help with spelling and writing of the words. It is found to be that this is a powerful predictor of one's success in learning to read. This is a common issue in those children who are dyslexic. Children with these problems may have trouble in the following areas: counting the syllables in a word, sounding out words, spelling out loud and when writing, separating words into small sound parts, and learning how to spell new words. The first step for teaching reading is to convince the child that you can teach them to read. Have other students talk about how you might have taught them to read or read better. Step 2 is to discuss and know what kind of rewards the child prefers. This is a reward system and can help them be encouraged if they start to get down. Step 3 is to determine what the child does or does not know. Start with alphabet cards and have the student give you the letter and the sound it makes. Step 4 is using the wide range achievement test. This is to determine the level of word recognition. Step 5 is using nonsense words to determine whether the child can blend sounds in words that they have never seen before. Step 6 is to listen to the children read at their independent reading level, which is looking for fluency in how they go about sounding out an unknown word. Step 7 is to analyze your data, and Step 8 is to make a plan. So this would include setting goals and strategies to reach these goals. A word wall is a visual index and motivator for all the words the students have been learning over the course of school year. This is a great way to help students remember the words by allowing them to place them on the wall as you are teaching them. These walls include words that have been taught in spelling and decoding. Pick a vowel sound, so a long or short sound, and go with the words that the vowel has before switching to the other sound. Word families or word clumps help students with their rhyming skills. This helps the students understand that not all words are new, just that by changing the first sound of the word, it can change the meaning and is still part of the certain family of words. When blending sounds, it is important to involve all the consonants and then move to the vowels. It is also important to point out the fact that letter order matters when writing and spelling, especially when the words have the same 3 letters, so if you mix them up, it's going to be a different word. If a student is starting to emerge as a reader, then they must read every day. The average is 30 minutes a day, but it wouldn't hurt to have more than that. It's always a good idea to read in small groups and have the students discuss what they have read about. Pull the students off to the side, if you're able to, and have them read one-on-one with you, and then take the story home and have the student read with a parent. Indicate the concept of the silent E. This boss is around the next vowel, giving it the long vowel sound. Or in other words, the bossy E makes the next vowel sound say its name, which is the long sound. If students are having difficulties with a word, let them mark their vowels and have them keep sounding out the word with the markings they use for the vowels. Marking your vowels just means to make them either long or short. This is my sample lesson plan. I have found out that most students who have trouble reading, they read in a very monotone voice and they don't take breaks at the appropriate places. So I have came up with an activity that would help with this. The activity is going to have the students read sentences that have a question mark, exclamation point, a period, and then make their voice go up or down depending on the punctuation used. I will record the student's voice while they're doing the activities so they can play it back and listen to themselves reading the sentences and how they are reading with more expression, rather than just reading it and getting it done and over with. Written expression in a lesson plan. There are 3 main facts about a student who is struggling with their writing, spelling, and speaking, and they are that the first step in evaluating a student's writing and spelling is to assess their speech and their ability to create verbal language. When students are learning to spell, they are gaining the ability to create words that are grammatically correct. Also, that when you are checking for students' writing ability, it is the easiest way to check for a problem with their fine motor skills. When assisting a student with spelling, you need to help them realize that each letter is a certain sound, and that spelling is a process of using those sounds to form words. You need to emphasize memorization. A good way to do this is by having the students close their eyes when they're practicing the word, so they aren't always looking at the word when they're spelling it. Another way to help the students with the spelling is by writing the word lightly and then having them trace over it and over again, with slowly removing a letter each time, making it so the student writes the word out at the end. To complete a spelling method, the first step is to start by saying the word. Do this by saying it sound by sound so each letter sound is pronounced. Second, have the students repeat the word just how you have said it letter by letter. Then spell the word. Next, have the students repeat what you just said, so have them spell the word back to you. Students are to watch your mouth while you break apart the word into grouping sounds. Then, as you're pointing to the letters, have the students say the letters and complete the word. And finally, have the students close their eyes and put their fingers in the ear while they are spelling the word over and over again. When teaching handwriting, the students trace the letter over and over again until you feel that they have a decent grasp on how to write it. Then you can hand out writing sheets that have wide lines and then have the students write the letter over and over again on each line as much as they can. Once they have done this, have them write out simple words that start with the letter that they've been working on. Then to check to make sure they're doing it correctly, have the students come up and write one of the words on the board. When students are writing, sometimes they forget there needs to be spaces between words. When this starts to happen, a great way to fix it is to cut small pieces of paper and have them put the pieces of paper after the words so they remember to include the spaces. Make sure they are proofreading their work before they turn it in, because majority of the time they're going to hurry through it because they don't care if it's wrong or right, just that it's done. When they analyze a sentence, make sure it is a complete thought and they know how to construct a complete sentence. Check for sentence structure and grammar that they are using. Also, they're going to need to know how to write a paragraph and how to indent at the beginning and what the parts of a paragraph are. This is my sample lesson plan on how to make sentences out of pictures. Students are able to describe what's happening in the picture, but they struggle when it comes to writing down those thoughts. So the point of this activity is to help the students write down their thoughts of a picture without talking about them out loud. They can share their ideas after everyone has completed the writing part, but not until then. This will also help the students keep true to their ideas about a picture, rather than writing down what someone else thinks is happening in the picture. Mathematics in the lesson plan. What it means by lack of readiness is that there are going to be some students in your classroom who may not be ready to sit down and work on math problem after math problem. There's going to be students who struggle counting when they get to a certain number. So if this is happening, then the best way to continue to work on math is by using blocks or a different manipulative when adding, and then continue to add more of that object as the number gets larger. So start with a small group, say 5, and then you get to 10, have them keep adding more manipulatives until they get to 10. Visual perceptual deficits is when the student is at one age but their perceptual score is years younger than they are. Students who have this deficit have trouble seeing groups of objects unless there is a clearly defined line around them. They have to have more manipulatives in order to count accurately, and they struggle when lining up columns and numbers, so their place value. Poor spatial sense is when the students don't know the difference between over and under and more or less. Poor memory is when students are not able to memorize facts. They will continue to use their fingers when counting, and they will have access to assistive technology to help them when counting. So they can use a calculator or a math chart. The purpose of an assessment is to get a baseline data of the student and help find where the best place to start your teaching and things you may need to reteach in order to move on in the class. Concrete level is the doing stage. This is when the students are moving the objects to solve the problem. Representational level is the seeing stage, and this is when the students are using images to solve the problem. The final stage is the abstract level, and this is the symbolic stage. During this, they use only numbers and symbols to solve the problem. This is my sample lesson plan on an Act 2 to help the students with counting symbols and one-to-one correspondence. The point of this lesson is to help the students count up one number at a time. To help them, they're going to be allowed to even use manipulatives that they are able to group together, put in a straight line to help them count. To test if this lesson is working, you should give each student a number and have them count up to it. Once they think that they can count up to that number, have them call you over and show you.